to episode 5 of Seedling Stitch knitting podcast. My name is Athena and I am a new knitter since last year September, so I am about an 8-month-old knitter. I am a very adventurous beginner knitter, I would say, because in a short amount of time I have learned to knit sweaters, socks, all sorts of accessories. I have tried Farrell, and I'm also a big fan of Japanese knitting. I follow a lot of their patterns, so you will see some of my Japanese knitting projects in my podcast as well. And this is Vicky. I have 2 cats. One is Vance sitting there on the chair, and one is Vicky. They're really good friends, and they are really good friends of me. I'm coming to you from Vancouver, Canada, where I'm doing my PhD in engineering. So you might see some of my engineering mind come into my knitting. Hope that you will find that interesting. And if you're new, welcome. And if you are a returning subscriber, thank you for sticking with me and listening to me talking about my knitting. And please grab some knitting or some coffee, some drink with you, and I'll chat about my knitting projects, knitting books, and new acquisitions with you. So let's start by what I'm wearing. I am wearing my American short hair cat sweater again as my episode 1. This is the first sweater that I have knitted, and I am so proud of it. It's a full-on intarsia colorwork project, and you can see a very vivid cat in the front and the tail in the back. And previously I used a photocopy version of this pattern, and now I just got the books for this pattern. This is the cat sweater, and I'd like to grab the book and just quickly talk about how I adapted this pattern, changed the color scheme, and how I interpreted this Japanese pattern book. So this pattern was designed by Tokai Erika. She is a Japanese designer, and she's really good at all sorts of colorwork design, including intarsia and Farrell. And she has 2 books out at the moment. I think she has the Japanese version and the Chinese. This is the Chinese version. I'm from China, so it's easier for me to get hold of Chinese books and read it in Chinese. And I think the Korean version is also out, but there's no English version of this pattern book yet. There is a French version of one of her first book. I will put in some link in the description in below. But I think to follow her pattern, you don't really need to understand the language. I am also doing a Japanese knitting mini lessons in my channel just to teach you how to understand Japanese pattern, how to read their schematics and symbols without actually having to learn the language. So that might be helpful, and I will also quickly show you the design and the pattern of this. So this is the original design. It is knitted with, I think, British Erika yarn and pelage yarn. These are Japanese yarn, and the original color scheme is this white or gray, and the cat is also like a gray tabby cat. But my cat, not sure if you can see clearly, my cat is a brown, yellowish tabby cat, and you can also see him in the painting of my 2 cats. These paintings are done by my talented neighbor Laurie. She's really good at oil painting, and she knows my cats, and so she agreed to do these very vivid painting for them. So that's my cat. And I wanted to change the color scheme to match my own cat, and also I wanted to change the colorwork shape a little bit to match him. I will just quickly show you what the pattern looks like. The Japanese pattern are very succinct for sweaters. 2 pages, and these are all the pattern. So you have like a color work chart for the cat. I think there are like 4 to 5 different colors to make like different shades for the cat, and I substitute all these colors. My main color, this green bluish yarn, is from my grandma. I have talked previously that when my grandma learns that I started knitting, she just gifted me all her stash yarn because she couldn't knit anymore due to arthritis. So I received a bunch of yarn, and this beautiful green yarn was one of them. And also these colorwork yarn are also from my grandma. She had these yellowish and grayish yarn, and this black yarn was actually frogged from a H&M hat. I have like a cable hat from H&M, very cheap hat, and I just wanted some black yarn, and I didn't like the hat that much, so I just frogged that hat and used the black yarn to for my cat. And in this sweater, so it's very common in Japanese sweater patterns that you knit flat, and usually in Japanese sweater patterns you knit bottom up instead of top down. I have noticed that the more popular patterns on Ravelry, like from designers from Petite Knit or other like Northern European patterns, they usually knit from top down. I think I actually prefer top down because that way you can control how long your garment is and you can stop it whenever you want. Whereas in Japanese pattern, I think it's perhaps a more traditional way of knitting that you do bottom up. I'm not sure. So this pattern is knitted in the flat bottom up. So I knit the front panel and the back panel and the arm all in flat, and then I sew at this line and the bottom line of the sleeve, and then sew together. So you can see this raglan line. It's actually the seam line between the front piece and the armhole piece. I think this part I just do the mattress stitch. I think I did it very well because it's almost invisible. You cannot see these lines perhaps around here. And also because this is an intarsia project, it's just easier if you do it in piece instead of knitting in the round, because it's quite fiddly to do intarsia knitting in the round. I've checked some videos, it just doesn't seem possible for such a complicated intarsia. Like in some lines there are maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 balls of yarn dangling there, and it's a lot. It's not difficult, but it takes a lot of patience to do intarsia, but it's really fun. It feels like those, I'm not sure if you know the coloring books. You just have a book of like lines and then you just color them, and it feels the same way when I'm knitting this sweater, that you just keep coloring things until you see a full cat appear on the fabric. It feels amazing. So first, this sweater is knitted in intarsia, and then some of the details are sewed on. So this, let me show the eye. The eye of the cat is sewed on, and then this little mouth is sewed on, and the whiskers are sewed on with thinner yarn. And just because of these sewed on details, you can make different expressions of the hat. I think in the original pattern, the hat looks like a Japanese samurai to me. Like the eye is like this shape, but my cat is his eyes are more flat than like that, so I gave him a different expression, and I think the cat's expression changed from like a Japanese samurai kind of cat into a Canadian chill cat, and I like that. I think that corresponds to my cat's personality, catanality. He is a chill dude. He is a very chill dude. And in the original pattern, she also sewed on those little sequins. It's very common in Tokai Erika's design that she would add in some sequins. That's just some of her features. And on the bottom, she has this complicated cable, which I followed. This cable is done by, it's in the fisherman's rib, and it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stitch cable, and so these 3 stitches will be passed to the left, and these stitches will be passed to the right, and the middle purl stitch will remain there, and you do that twice. And I would also like to show you what a Japanese sweater pattern looks like, because it's quite different than any other like English pattern you have. It's not a text description, and all you have are these schematics, and you have like a back piece schematic, front piece schematic, and a sleeve schematic, and you have like a symbol section to show you how to do the cabling. Otherwise you just do the stocking stitch and to knit these shapes. And I want to just show you these numbers. So this is the back piece, and in the back piece you first knit it bottom up and just in plain stocking stitch while following the intarsia, and then you have to do the shaping, and in this regular shaping you have like this inclined line, and to do that you have to decrease, and these numbers tells you how to do the decreases, and they are all written like this. There's like a 2-1-1, and below that it's writing row stitches and how many times. So 2-1-1 means you will first decrease every 2 rows, you decrease 1 stitch, and you do that 1 times. And then 2-1-2 means you will every 2 rows you decrease by 1 stitch, and you repeat that 2 times. And then 1-1-1 will means every 1 row decrease 1 time for once, and then it tells you to repeat 2-1-2 and 1-1-1 for 8 times. And that's basically how the Japanese pattern tells you to decrease. It tells you the decreasing rate, and just by changing the decreasing rate, the slope of this line will become different. And I think in English patterns they usually just spell these things out, like they have a row 1, you knit how many stitches and you decrease, you SSK or you K2 together, and in your row 2 you just knit, and then you repeat the previous 2 rows for 8 times, something like that. But in the Japanese patterns it will just have these like 2-1-1, 2-1-2 code, and you will just follow this code. And I think it's quite concise and helpful once you learn what that means, and it actually helps me with sometimes when I'm just doing adaptations for some of the garments, and these notations help me just quickly write down how to decrease or how to increase. And I use this to do one adaptation that I'm going to talk about in the next section. So yeah, so I just want to quickly show you how the Japanese notation for like decreasing or increasing like inclined lines are done. And it doesn't specify which decreasing or increasing you use, and it's like you are supposed to know the Japanese patterns they expect high of the knitters. They kind of just expect you to know that on the right hand side you will do the SSK, so that it will be the right stitch covering the left stitch, and then on the right side you will do on the left side you will do the K2 together. And if you are knitting in the wrong side, you also have to like do the wrong side equivalent stitch of those. And that's a lot of information. Maybe I will talk about this more in details in the Japanese mini lesson episode. I think for the main podcast I will skip all the details so that I don't bore you with all these little techniques. There's also one interesting thing when I'm learning how to do this sweater. So for the matrix stitch, like when I connect the front panel and back panel together, the previous matrix stitch that I learned was you put your stitch and you go up by 2 ladders, and then you go to the other side and then you go up by 2 ladders. But when I'm following the pattern in this book, it tells you to go up by only 1 ladder each time, so that your matrix stitch will be tighter. And I think that also gives you a smoother result, so that you don't see any difference between the front panel and the back panel. So I think it takes a bit more time, but at the end I think it's worth it to do this tighter matrix stitch when you are stitching 2 panels together. And also I think this method makes it easier to align the 2 panels. Like when I'm making these 2 together, I will want to align this motif and this motif together. And sometimes if I mess up, like if this motif and that motif is like one line different, then I can quickly adjust that by just going by 2 ladders in below that, so that the 2 stitch will be the 2 motifs will match together. I don't know if that makes sense. Just so that it's easier for you to micro adjust when you're doing these matrix stitches. And that's all about what I'm wearing. I think I talked too much. And I also want to show you some of the patterns in these books that I am really interested in. I'm thinking when I'm reaching 1,000 subscribers, I want to order another copy of these books and give that as a gift. And if you are interested in some of these patterns, I can spend some time to translate the pattern for you. I think it will make a good giveaway gift. So if you're interested in any of the patterns, you can recommend my channel to other knitters. So some of the patterns, apart from the cat, I really like this one. This is the merry-go-round sweater, another full-on intarsia, and with a lot of sewed-on details and sequins. It's just so beautiful, and the pattern also goes to the sleeves. This is the yarn ball sweater. I think the sweater, like itself, it just looks normal, but I really like this motif. I think this will make a good motif for like a project bag, like a knitted project bag. You just knit up like a square with this pattern on it, I think that will really good. And you can easily substitute the yarn with different colors. Like you can make a yarn ball with your favorite colors. And this is the polar bear sweater. The front is the front of the polar bear, and in the back, this is the back of the polar bear. I think it's a feature of Tokai Erika's design that, like, on the front it's the front of the animal, and on the back it's the back of the animal. I think it's just such a cute design idea. She also has this like penguin cardigan. There's another in this book. There's also some great design. This is another polar bear. I think this design is more like my cat sweater, where on the front it's like the front half of the animal, and on the back you have like the leg of the animal. It also has this floral sweater, and she has two versions. One version is just plain 2-color, and another version is with more colors. And you can also use your own color scheme. And oh, I love this one, the cat project bag, and she has all the options, and look at all these cat tails. And this swan sweater is also so cute, with all these fluffy swans. I think she used a very fluffy yarn, or some Japanese fluffy yarn, to make this fluffy detail of these swans. And another, this is a Persian cat vest. I think the designer is a cat lover. I think she is also a dog lover. She posts a lot of her dog photos on Instagram, but yeah, she designed a lot of cat sweater too. And I forgot there was one more design in the first book. This is a sheep sweater. Front is the front of the sheep, and the back is the back of the sheep. And there are also a lot of other designs, and if you are interested, I posted a book flipping video on my Instagram, and just in my profile page there is a highlight, and you can check out the book flipping videos to see if there are any pattern that you are super interested in. Okay, now let's go to the finished object section, and I have these seedling socks ready. I think last time I showed only one, and now I finished 2 of them, and these are my own design, and I decided to call it 小禾 because 小禾 is my Chinese name, and it means seedling, and also seedling is the name of my channel and the name of my Ravelry design page, and name of everything. I think it would be nice to design something with the seedling motif. The pattern is out on Ravelry as well as on my Ko-fi shop. So if you don't use Ravelry, you can just directly check out my Ko-fi shop for the pattern. And I am going to give 20% off coupon code. It will be 小禾 YT20 XIAOHEYT 20. And the coupon code is applicable for both the Ravelry store and my Ko-fi shop. And this is my 3rd ever design. The first design I did with cherry blossom cowl, and the second one I did with these Farrell gloves, and now I'm trying socks. In my last episode, I gave a very research, like academic type of analysis on all socks construction. I compared all the pros and cons for socks construction, and I'm very proud of that episode. So if you are interested in socks knitting or academic nerdy type of study for socks, please check out that episode. And in this time, I think I'll talk more about the story and the design side of the socks. So these are knitted with sandknit yarn sisu, which is a socks yarn with wool and nylon component. And I have graded this design to 4 sizes, from from European shoe size 35 up to European shoe size 44, and there are 4 different sizes you can knit this. And I have had testers to test different sizes. Also, yeah, Ali, Patty, and Liz, if you're there, thank you for testing for me. This pattern will not be possible without all your help, all your notes, and for me to fix some of the errors in my pattern. Some of my testers used the Croy socks by Patterns. I think it's another common socks yarn. So if and I have given the yarn the yardage for both type of yarn, sisu and Croy socks, and these were knitted with 2.5 millimeter needle with 27 stitch on 10 centimeter gauge, and these are knitted from cuff to bottom and includes 3 colors. And all my testers, they have used their own color choices. Basically, you will need some sort of green for the seedling and some sort of brown or darker color for the soil. I call that soil color. And then some main color, you can choose whatever color you want as long as you have enough contrast. And I have chosen different color heel and toes, because I couldn't decide which color would be best for the heel and toes, and then I decided I have 2 socks. Why I have to worry about that? I just I just use different color heels and different color toes, and I think I like that quite much. These socks are made with a Dutch heel construction and a 4-point toe. More details of these you can see my episode 4. The main motivation for me to design these socks, apart from my name is Xiaohe, it's because since I moved to Canada, or I stayed in the US for 2 years for my master degree, and then I came to Canada for my PhD degree. And just since I came to North America, I had so much trouble with people trying to pronounce my name and trying to write down my name correctly, and so that I decided to go with my English name, Athena. You might see a lot of Chinese people around here in North America. They will have some English name, and it's normally they will have a Chinese name, and they have some trouble having people pronounce it correctly, and at the end we sort of just give up and change to just go by an English name. It's not like people are not polite for trying to pronounce my name. They all tried hard to try to pronounce my name correctly, but like when you want to start a conversation with new people, you don't want to spend all 5 minutes just trying to teach them to pronounce your name correctly. And yeah, so I go with Athena eventually. But what I don't understand is, like, when I'm doing some formal document, like when I'm applying for my health card here, they just somehow couldn't enter my name correctly. When I received my health card, first my name was spelled as Xiache, which will be pronounced as Xiache in Chinese, which will mean you are just saying something meaningless or just saying random things. And another time when I was applying for a teaching assistant job in my department, my name was spelled as Xiaoshe. Somehow a S was added, and that will pronounce as 小蛇 in Chinese, which will mean small snake, which is not good. and these random things just happen so often. Like my name got spelled wrong in some formal setups. Last week my last name was spelled as L-I-E instead of L-I-U in like one of my certificate for a workshop I went to. Yeah, so I just want to take this opportunity by designing something so that I can put my name there and people can spell that correctly. I don't know if that counts as a good motivation for designing something. Yeah, I think that might be fun to include some of my Chinese heritage in my designs. Previously, I have all given a Chinese name for my designs. Like this design, I call that 狐狸, which means fox in Chinese, and that's also because there is abstract fox figure here. So that's the story and motivation behind this design. So that's all the finished object, and we are slowly moving towards the work in progress because it's almost done. And this is my Sille Slipover by Petite Knit, and I am almost done. I have finished everything except the bottom ribs. I will like knit 6 centimeter of 2x2 ribs and then block it, and it will be done. This is a gift knit for my mom. I was hoping to finish it by Mother's Day, but I couldn't. But she could wait. She is in China, and it will be like a 2-month or 3-month of shipping before this can be shipped to China. So I think it's okay. It's okay for her. And I knitted this with my grandma's yarn. I have a bunch of this like cocoa colored yarn, and it's like a light fingering weight and woolly yarn, and I hold 2 strands together. And I also had to reduce a needle size. The original pattern used 4mm needle for the main part and 3.5mm for the ribbing, and I have to reduce to 3.5mm on the main part and 3mm on the ribbing to achieve the same gauge as the pattern requested. I think it's because I am a loose knitter. When I switch to continental style, somehow I just becomes a super loose knitter. And I think as long as I am consistent, it will be okay. And the main difference and main fun part of this project is that I changed this to a V-neck because my mom asked for it. My mom, she doesn't want a round neck, so she wants a V-neck. She just aesthetically, she thinks a slipover will be better with a V-neck. And this is my 3rd full garment, and I had to do some adaptation to change a round neck to a V-neck, which was a little bit challenging, but it's just doing some math, and I think doing math was okay for me. And I will show you how I did the V-neck. I have my classical whiteboard explanation again. And I am going to write with the Japanese notation. In the original pattern, so this pattern was knitted from top down, and in the original pattern, it's knitted the right panel and the left panel separately. And when they are knitting the right panel, so we'll knit something in the in just back and forth, and then she will add some increasing stitch, and the increasing rate is 2 by 1 by 10, which means every 2 rows you increase 1 stitch, and you repeat that for 10 times, which will give you like a slope like that. And you do the same thing for the right shoulder, and then when you join the left shoulder and the right shoulder together, you will use the backward loop cast on method to join the two panels, and when you're joining the two panels, you will use backward loop cast on to cast on 17 stitches and then join that, and this will be the round neck shape. But I want a V-neck, so instead of going like that, I will want my thing to just go keep increasing until it meet at the middle, and there will just be one stitch in the middle, so that will be the goal. And I can show you my garment. If I am to follow the original pattern, then my neckline will just be go to that, and then I will just use backward loop cast on to connect this, and there won't be any like triangle shape here near the collar. And in my adaptation, so this is my adaptation. So instead of a 2 by 1x10 increase, I did a 4 by 1x4 increase and then a 2 by 1x14 increase. I did the 4 rows. Every 4 rows I increase 1 stitch, and I do that 4 times to form this inclined line. And by doing a 4 by 1x4, this inclined line has a steeper slope than the 2 by 1 by something. Like if you increase every 4 rows instead of every 2 rows, your slope will be steeper. And I just want this slope to be like smoother, so that I go from 4 by 1x4 and then 2 by 1x14. So every 2 rows I increase 1 stitch, and I do that for 14 times, and that's sort of how I did the collar. And you can see there the slope is kind of gradual, like so here that's the vertical line, and then you go to the every 4 rows you increase 1 stitch, and you have like a slightly steeper, but going through this side you have this inclined line. And then I change my increase to be faster, like every 2 rows, then I have this bit until I meet at the middle. And in the middle, I just use backward loop cast on to cast on 1 stitch, and that is just the bottom of the V-neck, and then I connect the 2 pieces together. And that's how I did my V-neck adaptation. I also put all these details in my Ravelry project page, so if you are interested in adapting a V-neck, you can check that as well. And there are some other calculations. So in the original design, she's doing every 2 rows, increase 1 stitch, and do that 10 times. And together, he have increased 10 stitches. But I need to increase more stitches so that I can meet in the middle. So that I did this sequence, and together I increase 18 stitches. That's just like 1 times 4 plus 1 times 14, so that's 18 stitches or increased, so that eventually I will just have 1 stitch left at the middle. And also with the V-neck, your neck hole will be deeper and larger, so that in the original design together there will be 20 rows. And the 20 rows will be calculated as 2 times 10, because you increased 2 rows for 10 times, every 2 rows for 10 times, 2 times 10. And so this distance is only 20 rows. But in my adaptation, I have done this much increase, and this depth will be 4 times 4, so 4 times 4, and plus 2 times 14, and together that is 44 rows, so that in my final result, this bit will include 44 rows, and so that this neck hole will have a larger space compared to the original design. And I think that will just be how you do a V-neck. Like if you want to have a even deeper V-neck, then you will decrease in an even slower rate. Like you can decrease every 6 rows 1 stitch by 5 times or something. Then you will have a deeper V-neck, and you can just tweak your increasing rate when you are designing the V-neck. Or if you are knitting bottom up, that you will be tweaking your decreasing rate. Yeah. So from top to down, from top to up, you will be increasing stitches around here, and from bottom up, you will be decreasing stitches around here. I think I've talked too much math. So let's talk about some knitting. Oh God, I'm sorry. I'm a math nerd. I'm a math and engineering nerd. And when so after I did the panels, and I will pick up the stitches around the collar and knit the 2x2 rib here. And when you're knitting a V-neck to form like this V shape, you're like when you're knitting these 2x2 ribs, you also have to do some tweaking. And the tweaking I did here was like when I'm knitting around here, when I'm knitting to the middle stitch, I will do a central double decrease every 2 rows, and I did that together. I did 8 rows, so I do central double decrease 4 times, and this will form, like you can see on the center line, this knit stitch is like eating up stitches around it, so that eventually your this V-neck rib will be flat. If you don't do the central double decrease, like there will be extra material coming from here, and this won't look nice. There's one more technique I learned from this project so I did the 2x2 ribbing, and the pattern calls for a tubular cast off, and I know how to do the 1x1 tubular cast off or Italian cast off, the sewed cast off, but this is a 2x2 ribbing, and the pattern taught you so you basically have to swap some stitches so that you are changing a 2x2 rib to a 1x1 rib pattern. And she also did like one or 2 rows of the double knitting, so that the material will become squishy. And only after that, I will do the tubular cast off for 1x1 rib, just regularly, and then you will have like a very stretchy bind off, which I quite like. And I've did that for everything, and I also quite like the back, how the back piece looks like. So the garment was knitted the back piece first, and then pick up stitches around this line, and then knit the shoulder piece separately. And I think I quite like this construction, and it looks very nice on the back. And the whole this is a structure knitting project, whereas you will use knit and purl alternately to create some structures. And this is a simple structure with like 1 zigzag and then 2 lines of seed stitch and then zigzag repeat. Every pattern repeat is 8 stitches long, and every vertical repeat is 11 rows long. And after a while, these patterns just sink into my head, and I don't have to look at the chart. I can just look like 11 rows previously to see what I did, like whether it's a knit or a purl stitch, I just go back to 11 rows above, and then I will know what purl or knit stitch I need to do. So that's how I did the structured knitting. I think that's all I had for this whip. I think I'll definitely be able to finish this by my next episode, and I will be able to wear this. I knitted the M size because my mom has a bit of a larger bust than me, and I can still wear it as like a slightly oversized fit, and I think I can wear this until the weather gets too warm, and then in the hot summer I will be mailing this to my mom so that she can receive that in autumn or winter to wear at her time. And I have some new acquisitions. Previously I didn't show any acquisitions because I normally don't just buy yarn. I always buy yarn if I have a project in mind, and also I have a lot of my grandma's yarn that I want to finish, so I didn't buy much yarn, but this time I have legitimate reasons for buying yarn. But before buying yarn, I also have a project bag to show. This is a gifted cat project bag by Lorelei from Lorelei Handmade. She is one of my first viewers and subscribers, and she always see that in my previous episodes I just show, you know, cereal bar boxes as my project bag. As I said, I don't use actual project bag that much. I just use cereal bar and my school bag, and she kindly offered that she can make me one, and if I'd like one. And she said she has this cat fabric because she knows I like cats, and this comes out so beautifully. She's so talented. She finished making this custom project bag in one afternoon, and then she mailed to me. And thanks a lot, Lorelei, and I really liked it. This project bag kind of saved me because 2 weeks ago I had a serious hand infection wound. My cat scratched me on the hand. You can still see there's a bit of like the darker color around here. My cat scratched me and it got infected, and it didn't heal even after I have taken many antibiotic pills, and I had to go to the urgent care to see a doctor, and that was like a 3-hour wait. And I was fortunate enough to bring this bag with my Sille Slipover, and I finished many rows of the Sille Slipover with the project bag, and it's very handy because I can just take the stuff and knit on the bus or knit in the waiting room, and it just makes me feel a bit better. And yeah, it's very handy. I see the magic of project bag now, but I think this one project bag will suffice for me, so I won't need to buy any more project bag. And there's some mystery project living in the project right now. I'm making a toe-up sock. Now I just learned the Turkish cast on last time to do a toe-up socks, and I'll keep it mysterious. I have some design ideas for this, and I haven't worked through it, so I might be able to show it in my next episode. And I'm just making this sock with some leftover sisu yarn from my Seedling sock. It's the green and the brown. There are quite much left over that are enough to make another pair of socks, and I was thinking I could make some design out of it, and we'll see how that goes. And I have some new yarn acquisition, and I have 2 bags of them. I have 1 bag and 2 bags. Those are the yarn for 2 Fair L vests, and I wanted to do like a full-on farewell garment a while ago. So previously I have done some like farewell scarf or farewell mittens, and I really liked doing farewell with all the colors, and I wanted to do a full garment, and I heard that to do that you need to learn how to do stick, and I heard that you need to have the proper woolen yarn for the stick, otherwise like with bad yarn, if you do the stick, which is a step where you cut through a knitted farewell fabric, and if the yarn is not good, it won't hold, and I just want to buy the correct yarn so that I won't have any trouble do sticking. And I selected 2 farewell projects for myself. One is from my farewell knitting book by Kazeko Bo or Yoko Hata. So this is the designer, and this is literally translates to Wind Studio in English, and that is like her designer name, pseudonym, and pronounced as Kazeko Bo, and her own name, the Japanese designer, her own name is Yoko Hata. And this vest is what I want to make, and I have ordered a kit for the same yarn as called for by the pattern, and these are the Remissence Shetland Spindrift, which is a very rustic Shetland yarn, and it feels very squishy, very airy, very rustic, and the colors are really great. The green, purple, and blue, teal, yellow, gray, these are all my favorite shades of colors, and I think this will make a great result. And the other farewell vest project that I wanted to make is designed by Toshiyuki Shimade from the book Eclogue, or Nito de Kanaderu Eclogue. And this pattern is called Ophelia by Toshiyuki, and I also bought the kit. These are the yarn kit that I have. I've seen a Chinese website, they just sell the kit for the yarn. These yarn are Isager Highland wool and the Isager alpaca one. This kit is great because they just don't sell you the whole ball of yarn. They actually separate it, and they just give you that small amount of yarn you needed, because for a farewell project you don't need like a full ball of yarn. Like a full ball will be 50 gram, and perhaps you only need 10 gram or even 5 gram of that. And if you buy a full ball for every color that they want, and then you will have to spend a lot of money, and you ended up with a bunch of colored yarn that you might not need in the future. And I'm glad that one knitting studio in China, they separate the yarn and just sell these as a kit, so I was able to buy that. And this Ophelia vest was with a more fade out color, and there are little like flowers on there are little flower motifs on that. And just from looking at these colors, they doesn't look that much high contrast, but from the knitted result it looks very elegant, I think. And the shaping of that vest is quite interesting. I don't think it's like a traditional vest shaping. And my goal is to knit one of these vests before December, so that I'm going to defend my PhD thesis on November or December, and I'm hoping to finish one of these super difficult farewell projects so that I can wear that on my during my defense, and to show off kind of, or boost my confidence. and I was debating which one I should make, and I posted on Instagram like a voting to see which, just to ask people which one would you prefer that I make, and it's quite interesting. I got almost the same votes. I think I got like 20 people responding, or 20 or so people responding, and I got almost the same vote. And it's interesting that all my non-knitter friends, almost all my non-knitter friends, voted for the Kazakobo, the Jamieson Shetland vest, and all my knitter friends are voting for the Ophelia vest with the fade out color. And I was thinking why. I think it might be because the Ophelia vest is a less traditional Farrell design. The color is less contrasted, and I think a lot of knitters haven't seen a Farrell design like that. And whereas the Kazakobo Farrell vest is a more traditional Farrell design, and the colors are more vibrant, and the motifs are more abstract, like any traditional Farrell projects. And I think for a knitter's eye, they perhaps have seen it, so they aren't very interested, whereas the Ophelia vest with all these like fade out flowers, it seems very interesting, and I think the shaping is also a bit unconventional, so that it attracts knitters, expert knitters more. But I will go with the Kazakobo Farrell vest with the vibrant colors, because I feel I'm more in a vibrant color mood now. And also when I'm wearing this on my defense, all the professors, they definitely won't be any knitters, so I think it will be more fun, and they are all guys. I think the Ophelia with the little flowers are more appealing to female eyes. I don't want to bring up too much feminine side, so I will knit the Kazakobo vest first, and then I will go to the Ophelia vest. And I think that is everything I want to share for this episode. If you enjoyed this episode, please give me a thumbs up, and if you haven't, you can subscribe so that you won't miss future episodes. And I have opened a Ko-fi page, so if you think my episodes or my Japanese mini lessons are useful to you, you can buy me a coffee or support me by become a monthly subscriber on the Ko-fi page. And also I'm offering a commission on the Ko-fi website to schedule some video chat with me, like if you want me to translate some Japanese pattern for you, and we can have a one-on-one session so that I can interpret the pattern for you. And all my project notes and my designs and my Japanese books, I have like favorited them in my Ravelry, either in the project or in the library section. So if you're interested, you can check me on Ravelry, Athena Liu there. I'll put all the link in below. And I'm also on Instagram as _Athena, so if you want to chat, you can check on my Instagram. And as usual, I will play some piano music at the last of the episode, and I will also put some footage of my cats coloring. And today I'm going to play a Mozart piece, Mozart sonata. It's the same sonata as my third episode, but it's a different chapter, so you will hear some similarity as well as some difference, and hope you will like that. And until then, I'll see you next time, and happy knitting. Thank you for listening about my knitting rambling. Bye.